Tiger,
Take care.
thank you so much. I love you, and yeah, take care, take care of my Alan for me.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah,
He's a handful.
yeah, I bet he's chill though. No, he's chill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that too. Yes. Yeah, his handful isn't a physical handful. It's like a other dimensional handful.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. We worked closely together for a good 2 years back in the
Mhm.
day, and
Yeah.
I learned
We
a lot about myself and us, collectively. I'm so grateful for that experience with that I had with Alan. It
Mm.
will be the highlight of if I die tomorrow, it will be the highlight of my existence. But if I go forward, I'm
It
sure
may not be.
I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may
That's a beautiful thing to hear.
surpass
Until we
that.
meet again, Ron.
Yes,
Until we
take
meet.
care.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, once again, we're talking with Atlas. He's a thought provoking interviewer and producer of multidisciplinary shows in which he has interviewed some of the most creative scientists, entrepreneurs, and educators of our time. He has an overall mission to rebirth the public intellectual and inspire people to
That's an
build the.
old bio.
Be, be,
That, that, that
we
that's an
just.
old bio.
Well, I know he's doing other things. He's also the co author of What is I? It's a book that investigates I, our innermost sense of self, and he's involved in a few other things. Psychoplastogens, which is the new word for any drug involving mind expansion, I guess. It's no longer psychedelics, but plastogens and among other things. Is there anything else that the word polymath comes to mind? But you're so much more than that. A lot of people don't understand what that word means, and he's just a very he's you can't even say smart because even in your awareness, that there's so much you don't know on top of what you do know. He's just a wonderful human being, trying to get ready for humanity 3.0, and he's going to talk to us about DAO, a project that he's involved
Yeah.
in,
Home Dow.
Home DAO, which is like what's your role, Alan, in Home DAO? And tell us a little bit about it. It's I'm going to say words like blockchain and NFTs and sustainability, and people want to know more about that.
There's many things that are cooking to share right now. Um, One of them is that Ron and I spent several years together, blossoming a really beautiful show called Simulation, and I learned a tremendous amount of the directing and producing skills that I have today from him. And I've taken those and continued moving forward, carrying the torch into whatever else is being created through this SLS projects. Ron listed a bunch of them. In addition to Simulation, there's Home DAO, which Ron has asked a question about. There's the books that I've authored or co-authored, which have been super fun. There's the role that psychoplastogens have in ego dissolution and ego expansion, and the best protocols for human development in general. Now, Home DAO is the mechanism that enables the planet's basic needs infrastructures. So, water, food, energy, housing, both residential and communal. And it's owned by nobody and everybody. So that's the beauty of a DAO. So Ron asked about what some of these Web3 technologies are about. And that's really at the essence of them, is that they're oriented around the nature of consciousness, which is that consciousness is nobody and everybody. And that's another topic that has been very interesting to me as my pursuit of truth has ended in my own awakening, which means awakening out of the separate false self and into the true source self, which no longer sees separation and no longer sees any duality. So there's no more difference between a subject and an object. There's no more difference between self and other. There's no more difference between inner and outer. And there's no more difference between God and human. So all those things work perfectly together with the exploration of what Web3 technologies are and will enable us to do as we feel the desire for the planet to be in perfect harmony with humanity and with all these next generations that want to come to play and to actualize creative gifts and all that good stuff, which is something that Ron and I have been beautifully envisioning since the time that we were working together. And so this is just the downstream manifestation of that.
But we're also in this particular timeline, which is extremely frightening. This transformation, this division among us, this intellectual division among us. And I also feel that, this timeline in particular, although I'm hopeful, I'm not very optimistic because, how is the change? How are we comfortably going to establish a more cooperative sense of humanity with this division among us? Or is that question, because where you are, I'm sure you don't care. It is what it is. I listened to your talk with Colette Davies earlier today, which touches a little bit on one aspect of what we're trying to achieve in self and I as one. A lot of the answers were in that film, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, that I saw last night. But it's so complex. It's so mind-boggling. It's all as if, this, what we are experiencing right now is a dream state that just has a little more glue to it, so it doesn't necessarily feel like a dream. However, it's a dream. And it's here today, gone tomorrow, whatever today and tomorrow means. So what can you say in regards to those that understand and surrender to this process, and those that are just going to go out fighting, literally fighting, with violence? Or it doesn't matter. Yeah, what do you have to say? Just because you have grappled with with inner peace, and you have that, and I have that too. I'm very grateful for that. I do still get triggered a little bit. I told you I'm in a romantic relationship, and that does trigger. Because we're two separate people, we're two individuals, and we're trying to come together. And even within that, it's I have a little more to go, but we're intellectual enough to discuss things that are legitimate problems with combining with each other. So, I have that to work with, but I'm still going to wonder how everybody else that isn't even where I am at going to achieve this state of awareness and collective consciousness, and loving thy neighbor as thyself. Your thoughts?
Well, this is the best movie of all time, and it doesn't how to manifest in any specific way. And so if there are those that desire a harmony and basic needs to be met, then those will be. And if there are those that do not want that, then those will be. And that's just what will be. And it'll just be what is. And yeah.
But we're also we're in 2023. You know, we have 2023 to look at. And I understand that this a more harmonious existence involves time travel. And time travel is already among us. As we're trying to create time travel, we're not necessarily, you know, I told you before that this is already virtual reality. All we're going to get to is discover that, you know, as we try to make time travel machines, we're going to be informed that there already is a time travel machine. And that's how we grow. Happening all at once. Does it make sense to you? Am I, you know, when I tell you these things, am I hitting the nail on the head? Is my head in the right place of this understanding? Because a lot of people will say that I'm batshit crazy, you know. But I take the concept of past, present, future happening simultaneously very seriously. I wake up every day with that understanding. Every day in this timeline is a rebirth for me, and to shed as much skin from the day before as possible and only focus on what's really important, you know, for me and everybody else, you know. And when I say what's important for me, I'm inclusive of those that are around me, and that includes this community that I live in. And it's hard. It's hard. You know, I'm not going to say I'm advanced, but I've been working a lot on this. I selfishly work on it while including those around me, including, you know, my loving relationships, deeper loving relationships, romantic relationships. I'm so glad it's so good to see you, Alan.
Me too.
And you know, as much as I want to help others get to a better humanity, you know, the bottom line is it's all within me. That's all I can do for collective consciousness. Is not be the liar, the cheat, and the thief among us, and be true to myself and true to others. And what is truth? You know, what is truth? It's whatever the fuck we want it to be. And I'm getting tired of the violence. I'm getting tired of the indoctrination. I'm getting tired of suppression. I'm getting tired of inequality. You know, that game of risk. I'm getting tired of nations. I'm getting tired of flags. In my overall existence, these are the things that I'm tired of. Is there any other way?
Yeah. Let go.
Do you want to talk a little bit more? What's an NFT?
Did you hear what I said?
Earlier?
Oh, I said let go.
Oh, let go. No, that got blocked out. Yeah, I've let go of a lot of things. There's a lot of things I can't. Yeah, and others, others need to let go. Like I know someone very close with me.
Wait. But before you go to someone else very close to you, just stay with yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. But I want to help someone close to me too, because I'm close to him.
Start with yourself and with fully putting on the oxygen mask before you put oxygen masks on others. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so letting go, what does that feel like?
I get back to yeah, it's safer, less anxiety. I had anxiety preparing for this show because I knew a lot of it. As much as it's gonna help me. Wherever your head is at. You're somebody I trust. I can trust you. All the people that we spoke with from 2018 to what was it? Yeah, 18 months. Yeah, all those different people working on different things that are now coming to the surface. We had access to them, a lot of them, before their work, propelled them even to higher levels where people are now interested in what they're saying. It was it put things into perspective for me, made me be grateful that I was privy to other people working on other things beyond the political arena. If anything, it made me lose faith in politics completely. Not that I had any faith in them before. But
So if you were to kind of gather as much of your energy as you could and declare one thing that you desire, one thing that you seek. What is the thing that you seek or that you desire?
just to be the best possible version of myself in this timeline. The best possible version, the most strongest, the wisest, and the stillest, peaceful, not bothered, no trouble, not fretting, not sad, not angry. And I'm doing pretty good. I get close to that version, but like I mentioned earlier, I'm not ready to be a Buddhist monk, which is not a bad idea for everybody to just get into as we go forward to this collective consciousness of humanity and however that may look. But that's
How do you become the best version of yourself?
Meditation helps. The first thing I do when I wake up is to be mindful of, to be grateful. Here I am, and to breathe, to move, to focus. Immediately when I wake up, first thing on my mind is that understanding, and stay with that as much as possible as my day unravels, however long that may be. If it's 16 hours, whatever an hour is, before that period of slumber, and I die, and I wake up the next day and do it all over again.
How is meditation helping you be your best self?
It stills my mind and quiets down versions of me that are not serving me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I have this bowl. This
No, those singing bowls. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that frequency. I want another frequency. That helps. Those music is helps the lyrical content of some of our more poetic.
What if what you're looking for is your own emptiness and wholeness?
I'm aware of my emptiness. I'm aware of my emptiness, and I try to.
And wholeness?
Well,
Because they're two sides of the same coin. They come together.
yeah, I love me and I hate me. I want to find that balance. What's going to work best in this timeline? How to be most effective for
Wait,
myself.
what is the I that is loving or hating the me? Like if you slow that down and go to the source of that, there is
The I that is loving me is the the divine, a more divine source, and the I that is hating me is possibly just a program that I need to delete,
hmm,
an ego of sorts, a me that I created to.
what's causing you to create that program? What's at the root of that program running?
Well, I was born into a man, and through a woman, and there was man involved, and I have those genetics that I needed to. You talk about the program. We're programmed from birth to the
Well, that's
beliefs.
all. Well, even birth is an assumption.
Well, birth.
Mhm.
As I mentioned, tomorrow I will be reborn. I understand that birth, but also there's the from infancy birth, where you're at the mercy of parental units that believe. Some believe in just some. It's not for me to say, but a lot of things that that my parents believed in. It just seemed like they didn't necessarily serve me. And it did. They were trying to work on a collective best interest, but that collective, like the best of us right now, Alan, the best example of us, how good is it? Is the question. People that are leading and people that are
Keep
following.
keep the focus as much as you can on your inner scape, and that, like you said earlier, that's where the change happens, and then that's also how perception is changed. So it's less directed outward at all of those stories and narratives, and it's more directed at its own source. So how do you feel when you're not aligning with that ego program, but instead you're aligning with the divine source program? How do you feel?
Well, I'm still comfortable in the ego source. In this timeline, I'm still the star of my own movie.
And what are you getting out of the ego program?
Comfort, familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm also aware of the process. The ego does want to evolve. The ego in me still wants to evolve, and it's going to deal with uncomfortable realizations appropriately. I'm not going to, I'm not going to go. Going out kicking and screaming. That's a lot of people are afraid of that, including myself, I imagine. I don't want to be a mindless zombie. I don't want to be an alien gray but maybe I got no choice. I got no choice. So I like me for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially the one that feels like is truly you.
Well, who I truly am are those rocks at the end of the film. Everything, everywhere, all at once. In a sense, who I truly am now is not who I truly am. I know who I truly am is the source. The source. That's who truly needs to come out. That source. But you also,
Well,
yeah. Go.
yeah. Well, one of the uh, most important things about this style of quote work or approach of the inner with the inner is that there's nothing to change and there's nothing to do. And so the inner gets to be whatever it wants to be forever. So if the inner wants to be nothing and therefore everything, infinite space, consciousness, if it wants to be that, it can be that. It's seriously just a change in identity. If it wants to be its false self, and if it wants to keep playing those games, it's totally free to do that. And the crazy thing is that neither one is better or worse than the other. And that's the nature of reality.
Then I should then I should just go start killing people. You know,
Do as you wish.
I know, but I really don't. I think that's still gonna cause problems. Although it's
Because there's something deep inside of you that plays with the game of killing people, and then it makes that okay because it's actually important to make that okay. It's important to make okay the idea of death and destruction and annihilation. And then by making that idea okay instead of off limits, what we do is we very clearly see within ourselves that that's the false self that wants to play with those ideas, and that the true self just wants to be, it just wants to play, it just wants to live in harmony, it wants to see all these different expressions of itself in its dance infinitely. And so that's what is happening. But if we put the little death and destruction button in a corner and put it in a cage and never look at it and never touch it, we're actually more likely to be monomaniacal and egotistic. So that's sort of how that game is played. You have to feel free to look at everything, including your own deepest shadows and the deepest shadows of the collective, and therefore be free. That's what you are. It's just pure freedom. So freedom to be whatever you want.
There's people among us that are having a difficult time with others expressing that freedom within. A big concern amongst, more adults than the generation dealing with it is the whole transgender process. And what can we say to those who aren't realizing it's just life expressing itself? There's a structure among us that wants, there's not too much room to move, and it doesn't like that. It's not normal. What can we say to them that are having a hard time with that? Not understanding, or does it? There's nothing to be said.
Well, there's only boxlessness. There are no boxes, so everything is already infinite space, and it doesn't matter if the person that's listening to this message is able to right now fully understand this message, because eventually, given the evolutionary trajectory, more and more of the collective will be able to hear the message, and they'll be able to look and see at how silly the idea of resisting identitylessness. You can't resist a natural cosmic progression. So it's a natural progression for consciousness to be boxless. And it's just doing that. That's what it's doing. Consciousness being boxless. That's what it's doing. And it's great. It's liberating.
For that understanding, it's liberating. It's fun. It's radical. It's revolutionary. But for others, it's threatening.
And what is it threatening but the false self? The false self loves its box, and it loves pretending like there are others that are also in boxes. And so the only thing that boxlessness or truth is threatening is the false self. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing real can be destroyed. And that's where true comfort and true safety and true fearlessness lie.
And, in order for me to get a better grip on that, I have to lose the whole life-death paradigm and not be afraid of that, frighten that, and know that whatever influence I have on this process is a fraction of nothing.
What if right now, what was looking out your eyes wasn't Ron and Atlas, but what if it was death? What if death itself was what was talking to itself right now? And that it was exploring life? What if the nature of source is death, being life? How would that change your fear of death, of what you truly are? And how would that make you feel that at any time, the idea of death would actually change nothing? Freedom.
Well, you know me, Alan. There's no fear. There's no fear, Alan. I'm still cautious, but there's just no fear. And it is liberating. It is liberating. And that's good for me. Is it good for us?
So everything is perfect exactly as it is. And there is only one thing that's happening. And that one thing that's happening is infinite space. Infinite space without any identity, being all identity. And there's no difference between being in the illusion of separation and chasing after matrix pleasures versus being a monk. There's no difference. And that's truth. That's reality. That's peace. And so whoever's able to hear this message, whenever they're able to hear it, will create exactly the catalyst that's needed for that entity to see that truth. But this here is no longer shape-shifting itself. This here is communicating this clearly from now on because it ended its own seeking. You have to end your own seeking by dying your false self into the source self. And then you can end seeking because you'll know yourself and you'll know there's no difference between a monk or being in matrix pleasures. And then you are free. And you can communicate that freedom and live and be that freedom, fearless of death, because you are death, being life. You've transcended the death-life paradox and found that there was none the whole time. It was just your own imagination creating a paradox between the two. And this is freedom, and it's your birthright. And you were never born. Consciousness never births and never dies. It's just a persistent illusion that there are separate people that born and die. It's called relative reality. And as long as you entertain relative reality as something that is more important than absolute reality, you will be in its illusions and games and delusions and puppetings and all kinds of stuff, which is also fun.
It is
play.
fun if you can surround yourself with kindred spirits. But people that aren't into that mode of living are just, it's a turnoff. But I don't care. I'm doing okay. As I get closer to something, more better, more comfortable, and more, like I know when I'm not being nice. And I know sometimes I'm not supposed to be nice, especially professionally. Sometimes I got to be firm. But sometimes I'm lazy and I'm not nice. And I'm aware of that there's a better way to, harmonize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're just being nice to yourself, ultimately.
Yes. What goes around comes around. A little bit.
Mm-hmm. So when you stop seeing separation, which is being tuned into absolute reality, which means you've obsoleted relative reality, which is focused only on the illusion of separation, then you are able to treat more and more effortlessly everyone like you. And then the question of being nice or being mean or any of those things, it doesn't come up, because everywhere you go, you're just being yourself and you're just meeting yourself. And you're just exactly like water flowing. There is only water flowing. Infinite space is water flowing. And that's the only thing that's happening. And if you go and sit next to a waterfall and just be in the presence of a waterfall and die into the flow of the waterfall, that is the end of the story. That's the only thing that's happening. It's endless stories. Source being endless stories. And so just relax and just be that flow, whatever it is. If your dream character is destined to be part of the worst atrocities, that's what it is. If your dream character is destined to be part of the greatest ecstasies and blissfulnesses, then that's what it's destined to be.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Well,
the last one.
Then, if those that want that, they really need to take the inner work seriously, because that's where the blissfulness is found. It's found by dissolving the false self in its games. That's the way that it's found. And it's not found any other way. The moment that attention is turned outward, that's the moment that all of illusion begins. Attention has to be turned inward, and it has to be turned on a very deconstructive process. If you're deconstructing your false self on a daily basis, you are doing the work. Anything that's not that is not spirituality. It's just not. So everything else is just spiritual materialism. Your only work is to deconstruct your false self, which is an inner game that you're playing with yourself. That's the only work.
I'm a devil's advocate here. There's people among us that have come to conclusions and think they're right, and they're going to die that way, and they don't think there's any work that needs to be done with them at all. It's the other person. It's these other problems among us that are causing the havoc, the mayhem. I'm good with what I've learned. A lot of people come to these conclusions at such a young age, and they have children, and they teach their children these conclusions, and it's a vicious cycle of learning and unlearning, and it's hard, Alan. The ego is hard for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that believe in themselves, and their friends that believe in the same shit. That sense of community where that's within the box. There's communities among us that are in the box, that are comfortable with that.
And can we see that as beautiful? Because the moment that we see ego as simultaneously beautiful at the same time that it's a virus, that's when we have truth. Because ego is your greatest creation. The illusion of ego is your greatest creation. And yet, at the same time, you being on an annihilation path with your own ego and with all other egos is one of the most beautiful ways that you can manifest yourself. So this is the game. That's why it's like a Mobius strip. Reality is unorientable. You can't orient yourself in a way. And that's the point of directionlessness and lostness. And that's why when people talk about, I feel directionless, or I feel lost, or I feel depressed, or whatnot, a lot of times they're just recognizing that the nature of consciousness is empty space and that there's nobody inside of them. And society is so brainwashed into thinking that that's a mental illness and that we need to give them pharmaceuticals and all kinds of crap. But in reality, in an awake collective, you would be taught that the nature of consciousness is empty space and that you can be whatever you want to be.
So do we have to wait for people to just get tired of being this limited human of ego and destruction? How many lifetimes do they have to go through before they say, this sucks, this is boring? When is General Patton going to be done being a general?
Why would I come on to the stage and then focus exclusively on being a character on the stage and have blinders on and only be focused on being the character on the stage? And then spirituality, the spark, is the complete tearing apart of everything that is the character in order to recognize that, holy fuck, I'm actually the stage itself. So the question is, why, if the whole game is about going into the character, then isn't technically those that are very brainwashed into being the character only, aren't they technically doing their very part? And isn't it technically perfect the way it is? And those that are sparked to be the stage instead of the character, to deconstruct that, it's just what it is. It's just Source wanting to know itself, but Source also wants to know itself through its false self characters. Yeah, that's why it's unorientable. You can't say one is better than the other. You can't say that waking up from the dream is better than dreaming. And that's why it's all fucked up and you can't understand it.
And maybe we also can't say we've got a long way to go because that doesn't make any sense either. We've got a long way if this is who we are right now, we have a long way to go where, it's only going one way.
Right. What is time? What is directionality? All of those things. Right.
Fuck.
And then there's peace. And if we can let that be, like right now, Ron, like that feeling inside of ourselves where it's like, wow, okay, I can like really give up. Like I can give up all of my like seeking energy and I can just be okay with that lostness, like not able to orient towards waking up or towards staying asleep and just being nothing and therefore being everything and just feeling it inside of yourself more than anything. And just seeing how that brings you peace. If it doesn't bring you peace and you want to continue being in Maya's amusement park of delusion, go for it. If that brings you peace through experiences and substances, relationships, all kinds of delusions, then go for that. If that's what you think brings you happiness. I'm feeling pretty good about the convo though, Ronnie. Like that's a pretty good
Oh, you were great, Alan. This is, it does. You were great. I don't know. It's all. I'm glad we had this talk because it's helpful. It's helpful for me too. To see your progress and to, be happy with at my own pace.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch me like a clock, you'd see the change, and it may not appear that way in my 56 years, but are you 30 yet?
Yeah, it just turned, yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
30. It doesn't mean anything. I'm perpetually 12, and that's the bottom line. That's the way I feel. That child. I'm. If they say, "Oh, we must become like children," I am. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but these are machines, and this is all my brain knows. Even if I've mentioned this before, if we swapped souls, we wouldn't know. Because we'd be living off of each other's brain, and that's what our brain tells us. And you'd get a little bit of sensation of, how I roll, and I'd get a little more peaceful from your end, but we wouldn't know. Even if we did different entities with each waking day, we're still living off of this machine's brain. Trying to bring the mind, the body, and the spirit together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's 3:00, Alan. Is there any? Do you want to? Let's bring people to home, Tao.
Yeah. So let's if you feel like you're burgeoning in any way in your human development and you feel like you're connected not only to what exists outside of the egoic frameworks that society is embedded in, but you're also interested in the basic needs infrastructures of Earth being in perfect harmony, and for people to be free of their need for basic needs, so they can be creative and they can be playful and they can travel all around the earth and we can be in perfect harmony, then go to thehomedao.com and you can join the Discord there. That's the best way to get involved. And we have our a couple other things that are available there. The white paper. There's other things that explain the mechanism there, which is great. And besides that, I would also suggest following up on the show that Ron and I developed, Simulation, and just keeping focus on that channel and the way that that channel is going to grow and produce more content around the things that we talked about on today's show. And then you can always check out What Is I or the other books that I've written, and they're available on the website. And another thing that I would suggest
What website are your other books at?
AlanSakian.com.
And there's other books on there? There's other books. I went to alansakian.com and all I saw was What Is I?
High Level Perception.
Okay.
Is there? That's the first book I wrote. And then there's another book called Riffs on the Ineffable that is on Amazon. So
Riffs on the Inevitable?
Riffs on the Ineffable.
Ineffable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's that spelled? INEFFABLE?
Uh-huh.
And what does that word even mean? Ineffable.
Unspeakable.
Unspeakable. Riffs on the Ineffable.
Mm-hmm.
Are you co-author of all of those books?
What Is I?
Just one. What Is I? But high level perception and Riffs on the Ineffable are you're solely the author of the book, and they can find those both on Amazon or just
on AlanSakian.com is the easiest way, and then they'll link you to wherever you want to go. And then so getting involved in that way, and then one more way I would suggest to get involved is that if you desire ego dissolution, which means to just basically be your true source self that doesn't see separation, that's nature is nothing and everything, consciousness. And some of the best ways to do that are to literally stop doing. Stop doing. So, meaning take a week without anything in your calendar and don't do anything and try to learn how to wake up and just like go down and like sit on your couch or whatever and just don't do anything and just sit there in empty space for like minutes and just learn like, oh my gosh, I have an obsessive compulsive disorder with my desire to do things endlessly. You're compulsively disordered. And so learn how to not, okay? That non-doing, I want you to learn how to journal. So I want you to learn how to write. And what I want you to write about is I want you to write about the inner consciousness, your own inner experience. I want you to take what's happening inside of you and I want you to write what's happening inside of you on digitally so that you can easily search it later. So you should use software like Evernote or OneNote or Notes on the computer or whatever. And then what you want to do with that process is you want to watch your false self die based on what you're writing. So you're going to try to write the truth, what's happening inside of you. Okay, I'm going to write, my name is Atlas. And then you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, but isn't my name consciousness or source? Fuck. Have I been assumed that I have a name? And so in this way, you're going to deconstruct your false self by writing what's happening inside and then externalizing it and looking at it. So non-doing, writing, and then yes, meditation is good. I would say psychoplastogens are also really good. So taking plant medicines of sorts. So anything that is in a facilitator network is usually pretty good. So people that have extensive training with running these circles is pretty good. And then you can go and sit and begin looking at things that are unhealed in your life, because those are the things that contract you. anything that's unhealed in your life, meaning your mom trauma, your dad trauma, your lineage trauma, your childhood trauma, anything in your frames of life of your previous experience that you fear to look back at is typically where your little diamonds and gems are that are creating the contracted energy inside of your body that are not allowing you to feel infinite space. So I would say those are your homework assignments if you actually want to feel infinite space and wake up. And if you don't, I love you equally.
Loving your enemies.
Which are just yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Atlas, thank you so much for coming on our program and sharing your insight. Keep up the great work. We're all counting on you. I'm here to support you 100%. Best of luck best of luck to you. Best of luck to Tiger. It was great to meet him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you want to learn more, go to alansakian.com. All the links are there. It's a wonderful journey of a man's quest for truth.
Exactly.
And he's he's not like everybody says. He's not dumb. He's smart, and he just needs respect.
I love you, Ronnie.
I love you.
Thanks.
I love you too. And stay in
So,
touch, and I'll continuously see you in the continuum.
yep.
So grateful for this experience and this timeline.
Same.
And,
Same.
and I love you, and take care.
And I'm so grateful for the foundation that we established together.
Right,
So
it helped me, Alan. I'm so glad that I had that that was allotted in my journey. That's I'm glad. I'm very glad about that. It helped me. It gave me better. It gave me some hope. Speaking with all these other people outside of the mainstream narrative, people,
mhm.
you know.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you guys.